Industry Insider is only available at Promo Corner, the leader in digital marketing for the promotional products industry. Each Monday, they discuss, dissect, and debate a single issue impacting the world of promotional marketing from every industry perspective. Now, it's time for Promo Corner's Industry Insider.
Welcome to another edition of the Industry Insider, your promotional products podcast where you can get all the nerdy news you need to know about. My name is Jeff Franklin, National Accounts Manager with Headwear USA, and I'm joined today by three other lovely folks. But before we get to them, got to tell you, this podcast is brought to you today by our good friends over at Tervis. Look, they've been around since 1946 and they're celebrating 75 years in business. Started with their classic line. They've got sleek styles that make perfect for the active and on-the-go lifestyle. Tervis is the original double-wall insulated drinkware that keeps your cold drinks cold and reduces condensation. Backed by a made-for-life guarantee, Tervis is the original customizable double wall insulated drinkware that keeps your hot drinks hot and your cold drinks cold. And they're available in several sizes as well. They've got a 16-ounce mug, a 16-ounce, and a 24-ounce tumbler, and also a 24-ounce water bottle. They're made from Triton plastic, made in America, lifetime warranty, dishwasher safe, microwave safe, and they are BPA free. So go check them out at tervispromos.com to learn more. You will not be sorry that you did. I can promise you that. So like I said, joined today by three other lovely folks. Why don't we say hi to Meg Erber this afternoon, wherever you are.
Hey. I'm doing good. I have a little bit of craziness going on. We're trying to redo this room. I'm all hardwired in finally, but the backdrop is going to be all suave next week. So
it's all right. We still see the S&S, what looks like a surfboard in the back, but I know it's not a surfboard. What is that anyways?
It is. Surfboard.
Mini surfboard.
Is it? Oh, it's a mini surfboard.
It's a mini.
Fair enough.
There was a sweatshirt came in that.
Very cool. Steve McFadden with Perfect Promotions and More down in Apex, North Carolina. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great. I'm trying something new technology-wise today.
Hey, 118 episodes in, and we're still on the struggle bus. It's all good. Every episode brings something new. I can tell you that.
It wouldn't be exciting if it wasn't for stuff like this, though.
100%. So look, we brought in the OG, the Mr. David Geiger with Geiger. Yeah, that Geiger. And so listen, David, it is an honor to have you on the show. We're excited to talk Spark. Obviously Spark had their Direct to You conference back on May 20th. And so we'd love to do our annual recap of Spark. But before we dive into the topic, it is customary around here to give you a good 3 to 4 minutes just to tell us everything David Geiger, how you got started in the industry, what you've been up to since, and any funny stories you've got to tell is always fun.
Well, appreciate it, guys. It's a huge honor to be here. I think you said it's been 118 episodes. So, wow. Yeah, thanks for having me on here. I guess I'll just jump into it. My name's David Geiger. I work for Geiger. We're a distributor based in Lewiston, Maine, but we're all over the States and starting to expand international now. But I'm the 5th generation of a family business that's been around since 1878. We've been blessed to have made it this far, and just super grateful and happy to be in this industry and to be working with so many great people like yourselves. But I guess my start in the industry, sounds kind of stupid saying I was born into it, but I've been around it certainly all my life. And I think I didn't really get involved until probably after college. I did some maintenance work here and did a few things around the business, but I didn't really get my start until after business school, where I went to school in Los Angeles at USC. And my dad approached me about a position in the company, compliance, product safety. You guys all know, about that. Our industry is very, knowledgeable about that stuff now, but I didn't really get my start in the industry until I was a compliance officer, moved back from Los Angeles to Maine. And it's kind of how I got my start. Worked for about 3 years as the compliance manager, did all fun things, product safety, FDA, CPSIA, all that, power banks, all that fun stuff. And got to the point where I actually started to realize I kind of liked the law side of things. And, I really wanted to, I guess, contribute in a way to my family's business without beyond just my last name. So I decided to go back to law school, get a degree, pass the bar, and now I'm back with the company as the general counsel, and I serve as an executive team member here at the company, and handle all things legal and risk management related. And there's a bunch of things that fall under that, but my job is to basically help manage risk for the company. But it's been a whirlwind. It's crazy. I mean, I feel like I just met you, Stephen, the other day, but it's been 2.5 years. So
yeah, almost 3 years. Yeah.
3 years. I mean, it just feels like things have sped up with, COVID and all that. But yeah, that's just a little bit about me. I'll stop talking, but
That's awesome. So, I mean, I have a question about the general counsel thing, because I think that's like a whole nother level. I mean, most distributors aren't in that position, or probably will ever be in that position. So, I mean, when you went back to law school, did you go with this industry and the Geiger distributorship like in mind? Like how did that all work as far as like your frame of mind? Like how do you take that into the promotional products industry? How do you prepare for that?
Totally. I think the goal was always to come back, was always to go to law school and utilize that skill set that I learned there, for the benefit of the company, the industry in general. But my dad's always been really good. He's almost always, kind of pushed me, away to figure out my own thing and not pressure me, which was nice. So I kept my options open. I went into it thinking I'd come back, but I interned for a district court to see, if I wanted to, defend scumbags or be some sort of prosecutor, or I worked for a law firm just to see what it would be like to, work as your standard, attorney. And then I also worked for one of the biggest corporations in Maine in their legal department of like 20 lawyers. So I kind of had the trifecta business, court and just the firm, just to see where what I wanted to do. But after I had that internship at the corporation, I realized like this is what I wanted to do. And, it just reaffirmed, what I was thinking in general. So.
Yeah, it speaks volumes because this industry is so awesome. So the fact that you've done that, you've been there, and then you still come back to the industry is pretty awesome. So kudos to you. But have you dealt with any like what's like the most recent law or legal issue you've had to deal with on the distributor side of the business?
Oh man, I mean, I think the industry's evolving. I mean, and regulations are evolving. Our industry's done a great job trying to figure out how to deal with all these product safety laws and just making sure our products are compliant. But, the government is, putting together a bunch of, laws, especially during COVID, a bunch of laws, HR wise changed. And, sorting through all, law changes are difficult because there's, laws, really based off precedent. And once you pass a law, it's basically just a bunch of lawyers guessing what it will, what the implications of it will be. But sometimes it's not for years, where you find out really what, law means, or it goes through the court process. And, so there's a bunch of stuff we're juggling, but I'd say California is probably, the one place where there's always stuff that's changing, whether it's data privacy related stuff, employee related stuff. They're getting a lot. It's going to be who can qualify as an independent contractor versus an employee. So things like that, we're trying to tackle. But
I figure that might be one of the most recent is like the whole 1099 contractor deals.
Yeah, that's been such a crazy thing to try to sort through, honestly. But
Like I saw you writing something down. Did you have a question?
Yeah, just when he was talking, just stuff I want to talk about later, but no, not right now. Just as a thought for later. That's all.
All right, fair enough.
And
She was writing down her rapid fire question. That's what it was.
Kind of. One thing he actually said is
Steven's like, oh shit, I forgot.
I did. I totally did.
So have I. So don't worry about it. It's all going to be an interesting rapid fire. All right. Well, in the interest of time and our audience, there's plenty of other questions I could ask because we could definitely go down that rabbit hole. But we're here to talk about Spark and the recap. And I did happen to take a look at the agenda, and there was actually some really good courses, it seemed like. So I know you're on the work group, and so from that perspective, I think you were supposed to select 3 different breakout sessions, right? Were there any that stood out to you, David?
Well, for the work group members, we actually helped moderate or host the sessions, so we didn't actually get to dive into other people's sessions, but I think there were a few really good breakout sessions and a lot of good conversation. I will speak for mine. I focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and I think you all know it's becoming a major talking point, certainly in other industries, but our industry is just starting to get our arms around it, and there's just so much to unpack there. But I heard the other sessions, there's great feedback in general. I know in my session, there's plenty of engagement. I know we just had around 100 people who participated or signed up. And I know in my session at one point, I think there were just under 30 people, and people were really engaged and passionate. And there was a bunch of people that just stayed over into the second session, essentially, so they can talk a little bit more about, DEI related matters. But, as far as, yeah.
Sorry, can we, before we dive into what David was, for the people who don't know what Spark is, can we start there? Because I think I like I said, we were talking prior to this, and I feel like I'm out of that demographic. So I'm sure there's a lot of people that are listening that aren't even aware of what Spark is. So tell us real quick, from your point of view, what is Spark, and who would benefit most from going to Spark?
Well, we got the past 2 chairs here. I'm sure they could do a better job than I ever could. It's, selling what Spark is. And Jeff and I were just talking about, I guess, what it started out as, but at least the way I see Spark, it's, we're a work group that, puts on events to help connect people that are inexperienced or just starting out in the industry. I think, we've thrown out, we're targeting millennials or the Gen Zs or of the world, but Spark is basically made up of the majority is 1 to 3 years of experience is the typical person who comes through Spark. But the key point is putting on education, getting them familiar with the industry, giving them pointers and tips and best practices. And I think the second facet to it is networking and bringing people together. And that's the way I see Spark. It's education resource, but also a networking resource. I don't know if Jeff or Steven, you're the 2 main guys.
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in to kind of give the idea. I know I was a little bit in the earlier iteration, but not as early as Jeff was. And I know it certainly evolved as a started as a networking group for younger folks in the industry, because there felt like there was this gap between new people or just youth in the industry, and there wasn't a lot of it. And I think this was one of the ways where people could connect, network, and get educated amongst their peers and be able to find one another, because there didn't seem to be like there was a lot of us. So I know that was the early iteration, and as it's progressed, as you mentioned, we dropped some of the labels and tags, and it became kind of a hybrid scenario of new in the industry and just younger in the industry. And I think there's the Ignite and Spark, which are kind of subgroups inside of it based on how much experience you have. But the whole idea was to be able to connect with people across the industry, no matter what your position was, and just to be able to network, so you can see what you're dealing with in your situation across the country, distributor, supplier, and user, and then also get educated from not only our peers, but from more experienced, and figure out how to include that back into the workplace.
Yeah, so I mean, almost on the topic that you talked about at Spark, diversity, equity and inclusion. Like most people typically think that that's a race or a gender type of thing, and really, it's all encompassing. I mean, it's a generational thing as well. And as we all know, this industry is known for a lot of white old dudes, and so. We've got now women's leadership. And this Spark was like the young professionals, if you will, and it was Seth Barnett's brainchild. It was completely his idea, and he brought it to LDW one year actually, and that's where we got to talking amongst ourselves with a few other young professionals that were at that setting, and that's how the first work group really got formed. But ultimately, it's about how do we make people feel more like a family, or make them feel more comfortable with the events. You go to PPAI Vegas, and like Steven, you said, when you look around, it's hard to see a lot of other younger folks, or whatever it might be. But then it's really incredible, because once we started Spark, we just started seeing all these young people sort of come out of the woodwork, and just in waves. And then you go to like the one Spark event at PPAI Vegas, for instance, where it's really just a networking thing. It's not the conference. And so in this one corner, the one hallway, like it's just a sea of young people. There's 130, 140 people there, I think, typically, and that's pretty amazing to see. So that's really what it was. But ultimately, it was about networking and engagement, and just creating and fostering that community. So. Yeah, thanks for the question, Meg. That was
Sorry, I didn't mean to like.
smart. No, it's smart to bring it back.
So yeah, and like Alan Letson is watching, and he just says, "How do you get into Spark?" He's a PPI member, but doesn't know anything about it. So this is a great opportunity to direct people. Where is it? I'm sure it's on the PPI website. Would you guys have link that we could put in the chat?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Go ahead, David.
Sorry, go ahead, Jeff. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I would say I'll let you handle it, since you're the new currently
Well,
on.
well, you can work. I mean, you can reach out to any work group member, but there's different events we're going to be putting on. As far as future events, it's a little unknown what's going to be happening. I think they're still trying to figure it out. We're still getting feedback from the event that we just had, but there certainly probably will be something at Expo up in 2022. But on Promo Connect, there's ways to get engaged by going to the Spark page, and like I said, you can reach out to any work group member, and we'd be able to get you set up on that. But
and we can drop something down in the Facebook as well with a link to get some more information.
Yeah, there's also a Facebook page or a group, the Promotional Product Young Professionals group that I'm admin for, and I think Steven, you're still a moderator. I'm not sure, but ultimately you can join that. And typically we stuff gets posted in there as well. But yeah, it's on PPAI's website, ppai.org, and then you can go to events and find Spark in there. So yeah. There's multiple ways you can find it, but thanks for the question for sure. So one of the things that I saw in the agenda that popped out to me, there's two major ones actually, like creating creative problem solving through ongoing inventory shortages, which I thought was interesting, because we're going to have somebody on next week to talk about that particular issue. So I thought that was really cool. And then getting the most out of a virtual trade show was one of the sessions, the breakout sessions. And then there was one that talked about like really navigating like the hybrid situation, which I also thought was really cool, because we've talked about that on this podcast as well. So I'm kind of bummed that you weren't able to join any other sessions, because I wanted to see if you had any feedback on any of those, or if you knew about them, because I'd love to get that generation, our generation's take, if there were any other viewpoints on how to navigate that hybrid situation.
Yeah, I wish I was able to engage on that, and that's why I'm really excited to see the feedback once we all have a chance to regroup here. But like you said, the hybrid situations, we're dealing with that. At Geiger over here, we're trying to figure out what we're going to do as next steps, and nothing's set in stone yet. But it seems the way of the world, and certainly people in my generation would appreciate more flexibility. I don't know if all of you would agree with me, but I'd rather have flexibility versus pay, and a lot of benefits. So I think companies that are resistant to hybrid are kind of missing out on an opportunity, especially with, the next generation kind of coming into the fold and being more prominent. And so I'm sure all of you have talked extensively about hybrid on here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think this situation, over the last 15, 16 months now, has really opened a lot of people's eyes, because a lot of people, I think, that had employees were really reluctant to allow people to telecommute or work from home. And this situation sort of forced their hand, and they realized that it still worked. And in a lot of cases, it actually works better. So I think, moving forward, you're going to see people that are a lot less resistant to that, just because we've already had our hands forced in that matter. So I don't know.
Well, I was gonna say, it's interesting what you mentioned, flexibility versus pay. I think that's been something that's been pushed by the Spark demographic of employees for a while now. And, I think we went over this probably a year or so ago, just talking about, what it looks like to hire different types of people in your industry and what people are looking for as it relates to culture. And flexibility has always been one of the things that people seem to flock to. So it's interesting how we've arrived at that and how, like, the new employees, it's fitting perfectly into what they wanted anyways, so it's going to be interesting to see how, like you said, the follow-up and the feedback from that session in particular. Do you know, David, do they record the sessions for people that might not have been able to attend to check out some of the other sessions?
Great question.
This year, I don't think they recorded. I don't know if it was logistic issues, or I believe it was actually more, they wanted people to be able to participate without, feeling like they, had to watch what they said, essentially. So,
Fair.
Yeah, that's the only downside of not doing that. But I think the idea was to get more engagement without having, to be nervous about, what you participated with. So
That's an
Yeah,
interesting.
I think there was a stigma at the one Spark. It was just, oh, is it all drinking beer and singing songs or something? Isn't that, Steven? Wasn't
So
that
5 years ago, Meg.
Yeah, but I think
Well,
it's over.
that's when you had mom telling you couldn't hold your beer in pictures and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The
Now
optics were bad.
no,
I will say that time predated me, so don't throw me in with that.
there I go again, aging myself.
Hey, go ahead, Meg. Go ahead. You got a
No,
question.
I think what you said earlier, we can't go back to the way things were. You didn't say that, but when we're talking about the hybrid situation and all of the people in those groups, or the demographic was saying, like, it's quality of life at this point. We just went the last 15 months through this pandemic, this mental health crisis, this sickness that infiltrated our country and our vibes and everything. And it's just, we can't go back to the way things were, because it was working, but we didn't know anything else until we were forced to make these bold moves and go virtual and everything. So I think that's why this hybrid environment is such a big topic of conversation, because people are some people are so ready to go back to how it was. But I think moving forward, we have to be more intentional. As an industry, we have to constantly be adapting and evolving. People want a better quality of life after just going through that. They found a balance, or maybe they didn't, but moving forward, I think it's just being very intentional about how we come to market, how we sell, how we take our role on as, a salesperson or, a COO or something. We have to be more intentional moving forward.
Yeah. So are optics still an issue for the Spark work group? Like, are you still hearing that feedback? Because I know there was when Spark first started, there was a lot of interest and a lot of watching eyes as far as, what it was. And I think the issue was people wanted to know more about what was happening ultimately. And, none of us were really, I guess, doing a great job at broadcasting sort of what was happening. So, the information that they got was just the photos that they saw. So what are you guys doing anything different now to approach that situation?
Well, I think optics, for one, are changing a little bit, because I think, we've had, I think we've been around for 5 years now. So I think the industry's seeing that, this is legitimate work group, and the mission behind it, and what we're trying to do. There's validity to it based off of prior events. In the past, I'm sure that people were skeptical because there is this bias against, I think, younger people where, these guys are probably just screwing off and drinking. But I think, with each passing year and the more progress we make, there's less of that stigma. It was a relatively, new work, group. But, now I think, there's been enough time that's gone by and enough progress where I think there's less of that. But also it helps too when you're basically all virtual and there isn't an opportunity to kind of go out and drink and take pictures or whatever. But I will say personally, when I joined the Spark work group, the first time I went, when Steven and I think this comes right after you, Jeff. I'd say Spark was one of the best, industry events I've been to, and I've been to, a bunch. I'm also on the promotion responsibility action group as well, and when we put on a product safety summit. But I think as far as networking, even some of the education, I think the event has been, really, really great, and I've been. Some of the virtual events, I'm kind of surprised that, the people that participate and, the response to it, because, I was a little shocked that we even had 100, the past couple times, more than 100 people attend. So I think there's more legitimacy, with time, and I think with the progress that's been made, and I think there's less of that stigma, thankfully.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I know, PPI is going to have to be cautious about, and prioritize the events as they start to bring them back. Have you heard anything about when Spark will return to an in-person event?
Yeah, I did reach out to them and ask if we had anything confirmed, but I believe they're still, trying to digest the numbers to this event. But I think if all things go well, we'll have some sort of live event at Expo in 2022. So that'll be nice because, so much of this is the networking and seeing people. And while you can network, virtually, it's, there still isn't a replacement for the face-to-face, so.
Well, I was just going to give a little shout out, being the chair during the pandemic, I had a lot of empathy going on for you guys who had to take over. There was a lot of momentum coming off the Charlotte event in 19, and then the social in January of 2020. And I think we were all excited to see what it could be. We were riding high. There was great participation, a lot of interest, and then boom, everything happened. So I know how it was to do a lot for nothing to happen. And, so to see that you guys pulled off a second direct to you event, after last year's pivot, was really awesome. So I'm props to you guys. I know it's a lot of work of not knowing what you're actually going to, what the end result's going to really look like until you get there. But I agree. I hope they can bring that live event back, whether it be in Vegas or another destination. I know we had San Antonio and then potentially Utah, and then everything went to crap. So, but props to the work group. I think 100 folks at an online event anytime is great. So,
absolutely. Very cool. Do you guys have any other questions regarding Spark?
Not really regarding Spark, but David, you guys you've been with Geiger for forever, obviously. You guys are always at the forefront of your industry trends. And I know you said that you're working on a lot of the DEI stuff. Is that something that for the future is what, Geiger is working on next? Is their next big push for this industry?
Yeah, that's one of our 4 major improvement priorities as an organization. We have improvement priorities that are 3 years out, but we also have 1-year goals. And this came up in our senior planning meetings sometime last year, that this was something that our clients are really pushing for one. I'm seeing it more and more. I do all the contractual work, and a lot of the big program corporate clients are asking for companies to be more aware of DEI and what you're doing, how you're hiring, who you're working with. So I think it's it certainly is important to us and over here at Geiger, but just seeing from the feedback at Spark and all the passion and the people who want to discuss this topic and we're fully engaged. I think there is going to be a movement just based off generationally and the moral importance of it and pushing for more inclusivity. We just talked about how Spark kind of always got the kind of always got negative feedback because people just assume we're always drinking, but part of that being more inclusive is understanding that different generations have different needs, and not saying that they were just drinking, but I mean there's that bias there. So basically there's a lot of blind spots as a corporation, and we just want to do better. So that's the whole point behind this initiative that we're doing at Geiger.
Awesome.
I feel like it's worth mentioning that our response to those or I guess to that feedback was, have you ever been to an industry event before?
Exactly. Yeah. I would. Yeah, exactly.
Like
I would say it's, yeah.
I was just gonna say, when you go to Expo and they print those, the magazine each day or whatever, the photos always have the networking events, and there's alcohol everywhere.
Oh yeah, it's just it's I'd say
that was
the Spark event was one of the most professional events I was part of, and yes, there was drinking, but for the most part, people were there to learn and to network and to understand the industry. It was more business than play, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
I want to add one more thing, Jeff. I do have a quote here from a first-time attendee, and it was, "This is my first Spark direct-to-you event and virtual industry event. I didn't know what to expect, but in the end, the event motivated me to connect with industry peers, and it has me excited to join future PPAI events. The panel discussion was informative, and you could feel the positive energy within the group. When the breakout session started, I was motivated to participate and share my own thoughts as well. Overall, great way to inspire young professionals in our industry." And I feel like that's the goal. Like, you guys hit the nail on the head with this one. And it seems like, especially for someone that's a first time, it doesn't know any better, for them to say that. I mean, you guys do it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I love that feedback. I love to hear that, because that's the goal. So happy to hear that, honestly.
Awesome. I did. Now, with one of the things that I've always said, for in order to bring more visibility to what's happening is to, record as much stuff as possible and put it out there for people to see. But, since it was digital and it wasn't recorded, what do you guys plan on doing with the feedback that you receive? I mean, is there any way of will that be published or broadcast anywhere?
Still unknown what we're going to do with it, but certainly we want to just take the feedback and make sure there's improvements for next year. I think there are always things that are overlooked and things that could be done better, and I do think it's important to be transparent about some of that information and how we're going to share it. So either way, I think there's always room to do better, and the goal is to make each event that much better than the last. So hopefully we do get a bunch of good information here to share with us what we could have done better. So
dang, David, you sound like a lawyer.
I know, it's some days more than most. Yeah.
It's funny. Well, I mean, the feedback or the quote that Meg just read, I mean, it sounds like a glowing recommendation for Spark. So, I mean, I think, if that stuff is put out there, it's a great opportunity for you guys to really capitalize on that and potentially bring more people in because of the recommendation. So, the Young Professionals group is, on Facebook, is more than willing to post that stuff if you want us to. If there's anything that we can do to help you guys out, I'm more than happy to. All right. Well, I mean, if you guys don't have any other questions, absolutely, then we can launch into rapid fire.
Sounds good.
David, I don't know if Meg or Steven told you what this is or anything about it, but You're about as prepared as all of us are every week. So
Oh, great. I thought I was prepared for this.
at the end of every episode, we just we each ask one question and everybody answers it as quickly as possible. And it can be, something very light and lighthearted and fun, or it can be, a business question, whatever you want. Like Meg always says, it could be, what's your favorite cheese? It doesn't matter. So I'll kick things off. All right. I'll kick things off, David. Since you said you've in Maine and LA, I'll ask Maine lobster or LA street tacos?
LA street tacos.
Ooh.
Heck yeah.
So I'm going to Maine this summer. I've never been. Going to Moosehead Lake and Bahaba.
Bahaba.
Right? Did I say
Yep,
it?
you said it. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm going to go with the lobster because I have to go to Maine and get the lobster. So
Fair enough.
I don't know that
Yeah.
I've had Maine lobster other than Cousins Maine, like a food truck. But if that's what I'm comparing,
Still counts.
Yeah. So then I'll go with LA street tacos. Then.
Were you at the I Promote You Elite 100 that they
Oh, I
did
was.
in
Yes.
Boston? You would have had
Awesome.
Maine lobster there then, didn't?
Okay. LA street tacos.
Yeah, fair enough. I go
It's too
LA street
expensive now.
tacos as well. But look, you can't lose either
It's
way.
really good. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Really good, but it's so expensive now. I don't know. $30 for a lobster roll. I don't know if I could do it.
Yeah, that's
I
crazy.
think I'll- so maybe I'll
Just
try
get
the
10,
street.
10 tacos instead.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, Meg,
All right, I got
on to
one.
you.
TikTok or Snapchat? I'm asking because I feel like they're both a younger thing, but
What was the first one? TikTok?
or Snapchat.
Well, I feel like I'm dating myself here, but I don't really use TikTok. So I guess I'll go with, and I don't even use Snapchat really, but I have used Snapchat in the past. So I'll go Snapchat.
My brain hurts.
TikTok.
I mean, honestly, if I had to choose between the two, which one I would use, I'd probably use TikTok more than Snapchat. Just knowing like what the features are on each. So I guess I'll say TikTok, but I don't use either one of them.
So I used to like Snapchat. I thought it was fun. I keep it because my kids and I Snapchat each other and like the memories come up, but like you don't get this on Snapchat.
True.
Okay, Meg, that's enough. Okay, Meg.
If I were to use either, this probably would be TikTok, but I'm too
Trending
old.
right now. Trending. All right, I'm done.
A lot of things trending these days.
You can't literally scroll without that guy coming up in your feed. It's crazy. Like if
I can. I've never had him in my feed.
oh, I'm gonna send you
Never
one.
been in my feed. either.
No.
I think
Don't
it has a
change my
lot to do
algorithm.
with Big Brother using your data and what you're actually looking up, Meg. So that tells us a lot about you. Stephen McFadden, what's your question?
Fitted or adjustable hats, and if you like adjustable, what type?
Snapback all day long.
Okay.
I mean, I'm a big Velcro fan, but that might be because I'm not in the Spark demographic. Velcro, just old people. But yeah, not
Okay.
That's interesting to hear, Meg, actually, because a lot of females don't like Velcro. Their hair gets stuck in it. Good for
I mean,
you.
Yeah.
Dave?
Adjustable, probably Snap.
Yep. Snap as well.
Sweet.
Whatever it's a generational thing or.
Yeah, that's actually a good question. I don't know.
I'm not like that much older than you guys. Jesus, like
No, sorry, that wasn't meant as.
actually on the cusp of a millennial. But go either way.
Sorry, I wasn't.
She's a brass buckle all day long.
I wasn't implying anything there.
All right, David, what is your question for us? And then we'll wrap things up.
Favorite, is it either or can I just,
Whatever.
favorite place to vacation?
I mean,
I'll Keys, but I'm going to Maine this year, so we'll see.
Mexico is my favorite place to vacation just because it's typically where I go, but there's plenty of other places that I need to check off the bucket list. Like I want to go to Iceland. I've been to Hawaii.
Me too.
Hawaii.
Yeah.
Hawaii is super nice as well. So
Yeah.
My favorite vacation was Thailand. I don't know if I can say it's my favorite because I haven't been everywhere yet, but I'm gonna say as of now, that's my favorite.
Yeah, I feel you. I think Thailand for me international, but Hawaii is my new favorite. I guess it's domestic, but it's yeah. I went there for the first time this year. Just
Amazing.
it's
Which island did you go to?
Went to the Big Island and then Oahu. So
Oahu
was there for a while. Yeah, it's all good over there.
Especially if you like rent a car and you just drive around the entire coast, like just incredible views, just stuff to see. You can stop off and get mango on a stick and all kinds of stuff, man. It's just awesome. Yeah.
Oh, so good.
Hawaii. All right. Well, look, hopefully you guys got something great from this podcast. It was nice to, dive back a few years in my mind and sort of rejoin and relive Spark. So, but anyhow, this broadcast was brought to you today by our friends at Tervis. And look, they added stainless to their line as well about 2 years ago with the goal of being better than the competition by utilizing state-of-the-art custom 360-degree UV printing. And they're available in 4 sizes, 12, 20, 30 ounce, or a 24 ounce water bottle as well. And they've also now come out with the wide mouth bottles available in a 24, 30, or 40 ounce. They're 5-year warranty. They're 18/8 copper lined, vacuum insulated. They keep your drinks hot for up to 8 hours, and they keep your drinks cold for 24 hours. So listen, go check them out at tervispromos.com to learn more. You won't be sorry that you did. And with that, David, I really appreciate you coming and joining the podcast with us. It was awesome catching up with you, and thanks for the info on Spark, man.
Thank you all. I hope to see all of you soon in person.
Absolutely, in person.
Yes.
One of these days coming up.
One of these days. Sooner than later.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys, take care and tune in next week for another great episode. See ya.
See y'all.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Promo Corner's Industry Insider. For more great content from industry thought leaders, including podcasts, blogs, and videos, visit promocorner.com.